Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and we are live today. We are live today talking about how to navigate grief and loss during the holidays. For those of you who don't know, I am a licensed professional counselor, and I'm also an internal family systems therapist. And so we're going to do like a brief overview of really the dual process oftentimes that happens in grief. It can be very polarizing, the grief journey, and also some tips on how to navigate that, how to navigate the ebbs and the flows of grief. We know grief is very, very challenging. It comes in waves, and we have to ride those waves. And we also have to listen to ourselves. That's the biggest point. That's the biggest point with navigating grief, that we truly have to listen to ourselves, attend to ourselves, because we have parts, right? We have different parts of us that are feeling different things, and all of it is valid. All of it's valid. We just need to tend to them. Oftentimes, we try to avoid them. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about the dual process of grief, what it takes to navigate that, and how it feels to navigate that. I'm going to share my screen for a moment, to share my screen so we can look and see, yeah, how do we do this? And what is this dual process? What does it look like? What does it really look like? Because there's a part of us, right? There's a part of us that is holding grief, is really holding the sadness of the grief that we're experiencing, and there's a part of us that's looking for the future, looking to move forward, right? So we want to take a look, and truly figure out where we are in that process. All right, so let us look, and we're going to pull up this slide so we can see. Hopefully it shows up. It's my first time doing it. Oh, there we go. So it's coming up. You shall see it. Okay, so this is the dual process of grief. Okay, the dual process of grief. This is the everyday life. So this is outside of the holidays. Outside of the holidays, the dual process of grief, we have a part of us that is holding the grief, that's loss oriented. It's holding the grief. It wants to do the grief work. It wants to feel the feelings of grief, the sadness, the anger, whatever feelings, the fear, all of it that come, the intrusion of grief. Grief is the waves. It would be so wonderful sometimes if we could predict those waves of grief, but oftentimes we're in a car and a song comes on. We experience a smell. We come to a place. There are certain little places where it activates, it triggers memories. And sometimes those memories can bring joy, can really bring joy. Sometimes those memories bring grief and bring sadness. And so, yes, grief can be an intrusion. Ah, the breaking of the bonds. If there's relationships, if there are relocations, all of that, there's grief attached to that. And of course, we know that a part of the grieving process it's like avoiding the restoration changes, avoiding moving forward. A part of you wants to stay where it was comfortable, where it was happy. And so now that the loss has occurred, now that things have shifted, it's like I don't want to move forward with my life. I want to go back to a time where things were better. I want to go back to a time where my loved one was there and it felt comfortable and it felt peaceful and it was like a warm blanket, right? And on the other side, there's restoration oriented, right? So we're attending to everyday life, right? We're going to work. We are handling school, whatever comes our way. We are connecting with friends or family members that are still there. We're trying to navigate everyday life. And on top of that, man, it sometimes it feels like it would be much easier if we could push a pause button after we lose a loved one, but that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. We have to continue to move forward with our lives. And so we have a part of us that is like, okay, we got to do new things and we want to distract. We want to distract. We want to avoid grief. We want to avoid grief as much as possible. Let's do things that will bring us joy. Let's do things that will take our mind off of feeling sad. And both of these things, the loss oriented and restoration oriented, neither of them are bad. Neither of them are bad. They are part of grief. This is a part of the process and it naturally happens. And so it's a part of us that wants to distract ourselves, avoid the feelings of grief because sometimes it can be overwhelming. We want to deny. Sometimes we want to deny. I'm not grieving. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm moving forward. I'm doing well. And really, what we're doing when we do deny is we're pushing aside that part of us that's carrying the loss. We're pushing aside the part of us that is carrying the grief. And then the last, we have these new roles, these new identities, and new relationships. All these things that happen after a loss, right? Whether it be the loss of, or we've gotten married. We've gotten married. We are now having maybe a new career. We're playing a new role. Those identities are part of the restoration process of grief. Okay, and so we have this internal struggle that's happening on a a struggle. The part of us that is holding grief, and a part of us that is wanting to move forward. And this is a part of how it makes things so challenging. So just imagine this is everyday life. And now we are coming to the time where we're thinking about the holidays and we're thinking about, okay, now what's going to happen? Now who's going to carve the turkey? We used to go to grandma's house. Now that isn't there anymore. What what can we do? What can we do to navigate these two big parts? This these two very polarizing parts of us. What can we do to navigate this? So I'm going to stop sharing the screen and we're going to talk a little bit about what can we do? What can we do to really attend to the part of us that is holding the grief and attending to the part of us that wants to move forward, wants to continue to celebrate the holidays, wants to have joy, experience, and even carry on some of the traditions, right? So wants to continue to do that, and we know this grief is like an ocean. Grief is like an ocean. It comes in waves. It ebbs and flows, and sometimes the water's calm, and sometimes it is overwhelming, right? It comes in like a flood, it takes you over. All we can learn to do is just swim, to just swim as grief continues to come in and come out as waves, right? And so, how do we do this? One way that we can do to truly take a look at how we're truly going to navigate loss and grief during the holidays is set boundaries around the holidays. And I want to see if I can pull this up, but to set boundaries around the holidays. Now you don't have to do what you have normally done, right? So people may send you invitations and you can say yes if there's a part of you that wants to go, but you can also listen to the part of you that's saying, maybe I'm not going to stay. I'm not going to stay the entire time, right? I'm not going to to stay the entire time. You can choose. You can choose how you celebrate. You get to choose that. And you get to choose whether you're going to go or not go. You decide. You decide that. And so you decide if you're going to go, how you're going to celebrate, you decide how long you're going to stay, and you're going to find balance. Balance. Oftentimes, what happens is either the part of us that's grieving or the part of us that's carrying loss, we feel like we have to choose one or the other. And it's truly important, if you don't get anything else, to listen. Listen to both parts. Okay? Because one part may say, man, I really want to go to that party. That sounds fun. And there's another part that says, I don't want to go. This is going to be sad. Okay. Can we find and negotiate a medium between the two? Okay, we're going to go because we want to go. Some of our friends are going to be there, or some of our loved ones are going to be there. And we're also going to attend to the part of us that's grieving. And we won't stay as long if we're listening to our bodies, we feel like, it's getting too much. We're going to head out. We're going to head out. And that's okay. Navigating the balance between both parts. And so listening to both parts, navigating them, and taking care of yourself through the grief. Through the grief. So, so important. We want to also tune in to those grief emotions. Tune into those grief emotions because we know, we talked about this, that there's going to be ebbs and flows about this grief. It's going to come unexpected. You never know. Each year, I have been in this grief journey for 8 years now, and you never know. Year by year, the holidays hit different depending on what happened during the year, depending on where you are during the year, depending on where you are in your grief journey. All of it. There's so many complex things. Grief is so complex. And so embracing those emotions as they come, embracing them and riding the wave, breathing through it. If you feel a wave of grief, if a wave of grief comes on, to breathe and ride the wave because they will come. They will come. There are times when we're trying it, and I do. I understand why there's a part of us that wants to avoid it. I completely understand. And at the same time, it would be an unrealistic expectation for us to not give ourselves space, especially the part that is grieving, to not give that part some space too. So letting yourself know too that it's okay. It's okay to feel more than one thing at one time. Completely okay. It's going to happen, especially if there is a complex relationship that's being grieved. You may feel more than one thing, or this relationship, or even this thing, right? Could be that you were expecting to be a mother by this time this year. You were expecting to be in a relationship and now you're not. Okay? So it's okay to feel more than one thing at one time. You can choose both. You don't have to choose one or the other. You can choose both or several, and creating space inside of you for all of those feelings. And to be mindful. To be mindful, I will say, of the holiday cheer and also of the types of food that you intake, right? So the holiday cheer, around that year, around this time of year, we get heavy on the poor and the libations, and that's a part of celebrating, but also attending to yourself to know is too much enough, knowing yourself to know, is this going to add or take away, right? Because we know that it is a depressant. Alcohol does also increase anxiety, and so we have to be mindful of that. And also, there are certain types of foods that also increase your likelihood to be depressed, and so of that, because this season is already a challenging time. The season's already challenging, and so we do need to be mindful about the holiday cheer. and the food we intake just to take care of ourselves. We're looking out for ourselves. And also, that means making sure we're malnourished, making sure we're getting sleep, making sure we're drinking water, and we're eating. All of that. We're making sure that we're taking care of our body so that when when the grief waves come, we will we will have some support even in ourselves. We'll have some support to be able to ride those waves, and won't be adding on like compounding issues, right? It's very, very important. Truly important. Next, we want, this is the biggest, the biggest, biggest point that I want to nail home. Plan. Plan ahead. We want to plan ahead because, like we know, grief is unpredictable. And when we don't have a plan, that is when the part of us that is feeling and holding the grief can really feel out of sorts. It can feel out of sorts because there's nothing to feel what wasn't, what was, and what can never be anymore. And so if we don't have a plan, then the part of us that's grieving is wandering like aimlessly, like what can I do? What can I do? And so, what we do is make a plan, right? We make a plan. We talk about, okay, what roles were being filled by our loved one that need to be replaced. The example of this is if grandma, she hosted Thanksgiving dinner, and this is the first Thanksgiving without her. Let's get the family together and make a plan. Let's get the family together and make a plan. And this can be challenging. This can be challenging for a myriad of reasons because grief also impacts the relationships, the familial relationships. And so, if you're feeling like it may be too stressful. It may be causing more conflict than good to to come together as a family, even though you that's what we would want, like that's the goal. If that's not the goal, if that's not the goal, even setting a plan for what you will do for the holidays, or you and your family, your immediate family will do for the holidays. Have a plan. Have a plan. Have an A, B, and C plan. Because things happen. Things happen. And so sometimes when plans fall through as life happens, part of us that's carrying grief may panic, may not know what to do, right? So just having some plans in place to know what you need in order to take care of yourself through the holidays, how you want to celebrate it, and taking into consideration that balance that we talked about, honoring the part of us that's holding grief and honoring the part that wants to move forward, wants to continue to move forward, maybe for the younger generations of the family, and also even for yourself to continue to enjoy the holidays. The second piece, after we've made our plan, we want to honor the old traditions, honor the old traditions and the old memories. So honoring those old traditions could look like, hey, maybe the family every Christmas Eve we used to ride around the city and look at the Christmas lights. That can still be a part of where we honor the old traditions. Or we used to listen to certain type of music every Christmas Eve or every Christmas morning. We used to open our presents. We used to open our presents on Christmas Eve, or listen to, watch old Christmas holiday movies, things of that nature, thinking about how to honor the old traditions and the old memories. And maybe even sharing stories of the loved one who has passed. But being mindful, right? And still listening to yourself to figure out, okay, is this something that is too much for me? Is it something that's going to bring joy? Or is it something that may cause another wave of grief? And if so, allowing yourself space to grieve, right? Allowing yourself space when those waves of grief come, because they will come. They will come. They will come. So allowing yourself that space to grieve when those waves come, when you share those old memories or sharing those old traditions. And of course, create new traditions. Create new traditions. What would you do moving forward with your family? And again, this is shifting and honoring that part that wants to move forward, that part that wants to take on life after the death of your loved one. Thinking about new traditions. What could you do? Whether it is doing some family holiday TikToks or doing some internet challenges, doing a family game night, getting creative, making cookies and teaching the maybe the old loved ones their recipes, teaching the younger generation those recipes, creating new traditions to help to balance honoring the old memories and creating new traditions, honoring the part of you that is grieving, honoring the part of you that is wanting to move forward. At the same time, finding that balance. Are you catching a trend? Where this is the trend of how we're going to navigate grief and loss during the holidays, right? And we want to identify some ways to cope. And this is really for you to attend to what works for you. Okay. Attend to what you feel works for you. And only you know that. Only you know what works best for you. So whether it be listening to music, sometimes it could be listening to their loved one's favorite music, listening to holiday music, maybe setting some time away to even think for yourself and collect yourself. Could be meditation, journaling, even movement. And movement doesn't have to be exercise or anything of that nature, or walking. Could be dance to connect yourself to your body, because sometimes we get very stuck in our mind, and it can get our parts can get jumbled up there. Our parts can get jumbled up there, and they have a lot of big feelings. And so, using movement to help us to connect to our body, so that we can attend to ourselves when we need to. We can see if, okay, are we feeling a tinge of pain in our chest and our shoulders? Are we stressed? Attending to our body so that we can attend to what we need to navigate each moment next, right? Because we know those grief waves are going to come, and they're going to flow in and they're going to flow out, right? Grounding techniques. So important. Grounding techniques can also assist you if you're having a wave of grief, it's becoming overwhelming, using ways to ground you. One of the easiest ways is touch. Touch can be a powerful grounding technique, and we learned during the pandemic how hard it was to not have that, to not have that. But our brains release a chemical that helps to bring us down, when we do touch, when we hug, when we hold hands. It's so and so important for us to ground us. Even temperature, using temperature, cold temperature helps to ground. So you can use, whether it is maybe holding something that was in the refrigerator. Some people hold maybe like a cold lemon. Some people put like a little ice tray on their arm just to help to ground in moments where we are feeling like a hyper arousal or a high wave of grief that is becoming overwhelming, right? We're trying to swim, but sometimes those waves are really big. And then sometimes we need to be present for ourselves in that moment. Validate those feelings. When those waves of grief come, tell yourself, that part of yourself that is holding that grief, that it is okay to grieve. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to be sad. Our loved one isn't here anymore. The family has changed. It doesn't feel like it used to feel. And it makes sense why you are sad. And truly validating that for yourself out loud. That will help for you to be present for you when you're grieving. And the part of you that is holding that sadness is struggling. It will help if we take time to truly speak to that part and validate its feelings. Very big. Also, another way that we can help to navigate grief and loss during the holidays is to do something charitable. Do something charitable. It could be in the memory or in the name of your loved one if they have a cause that was near and dear to their heart. Um, my dad, for instance, he really gave a lot to the homeless. That was a thing that he did constantly every year and even throughout the year. Or if your loved one maybe passed of cancer or of, could be lupus, any disease, and you want to give money in that in your loved one's name, it helps you. It helps to give you a boost, one, and it helps to help you feel better about yourself as you're moving on in a grief journey. It's hard. It Giving and gratitude, it helps to unlock a part of you, right, that is outside of the party that's grieving and the part of you that is wanting to move forward and wanting to celebrate. And so gratitude can be a very grounding feeling and emotion. And so giving to someone who is less fortunate than you taps into your gratitude, which can be very grounding and provide a sense of clarity, because oftentimes the grief journey can be ever pulling, right? We have these two polarizing parts inside of us that's avoiding the grief or carrying the grief. And so having and tapping into that gratitude can help to center us and help us to navigate the holidays from a center place. Lastly, lastly, this is huge. I know I said but the other things that they were big, but they're all big. Ask for help if you're struggling. You hear me? Ask for help if you're struggling. I know. I know that it's very challenging. It is very challenging to ask for help. We don't like to do that. There are parts of us that struggle to ask for help, one, because we don't want to be disappointed. We may have been let down in the past. We also sometimes there's a part of us that wants to make sure that everyone knows that we're okay because we're the strong person in the family, or we want to put up a good front for everyone, so we don't want to say that we're struggling. There's a part of us that doesn't like to be a burden. Can we be honest that huh, when it comes to grief, it's not a lot of conversation about grief. Grief isn't something we lean into because it's uncomfortable. And oftentimes people don't know what to say and they don't know what to do. And so we don't want to make people uncomfortable by talking about our feelings of grief. So we just don't. We just don't. And then that makes the grief journey, especially the grief journey during the holidays, even more isolating. So ask for help. And when you ask for help, be specific about what you need. It's truly important. Be specific about what you need. Because oftentimes, us as humans, what we tend to do is we give others maybe what we would want if we were needing support. And what you may need in that moment is just someone coming and sitting with you as you put up the Christmas tree, because that was what happened during the holidays, right? If you and your loved one put up the Christmas tree, and so doing it without them just doesn't seem right. So you just want a friend or a family member to come and sit with you, and you put up the Christmas tree, or you put the Christmas tree up together. So be specific. Be specific about what you need, and please lean into the courage, lean into the bravery to ask for help when you need it. Because being connected and connectedness is how we get through this grief journey. It's already so isolating. It's already so isolating because we're grieving something that nobody else is grieving. Yes, there may be other family members that are grieving this person, but only you are grieving your relationship with this person. And that other family member is grieving their relationship with that person. So it's a very, very individualized journey. And so that can be isolating because no one knows what you're missing but you. No one knows what you're missing but you. And so being connected, having grief support groups are huge. Grief Share is one that's very popular. Grief Share, and also finding some what I would call grief buddies, people that maybe have lost others in their lives, staying connected with them, because it's so important to have that shared language, that shared experience, If you've lost someone in your life, you know, you know what it feels like. You may not have, again, the known experience of all the nuances of grief, but you know what this grief journey is like. You know those waves when they come and go, and it's like a shared experience that you can have with each other. And so having that connection and asking for help is huge. Is huge. I mean, it's huge and it's priceless. It's priceless. I can definitely attest to it through my personal grief journey. One of the things that I have done is when I do see friends or those who I've been connected with and they lose a parent. I kind of reach out to them every now and then just to see how they're doing. One, because me being 8 years in this game, it kind of gives them a little hope because you say, okay, at least, all right, Alicia's been doing this for 8 years. So, okay, this is bearable because sometimes there's a part of us that feels like it's so heavy. The grief is so heavy and it's overwhelming and feel like we can't do it. We can't make it through the grief journey. And also, what has been helpful for me is when friends reach out to me when they know that it's a special day, it's a birthday, or for my father, Christmas was his holiday. He was huge and big about holidays. He loved giving gifts, and that was his love language. That was what he did. It was extravagant Christmas, from food to gifts, all of it. And so I have friends who reach out and just check in. We need that. We need that connection in order to navigate this grief thing because it's tough. It is tough. It truly is. So the biggest thing is to plan ahead. Plan ahead. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. Listen to the part of you that's carrying grief and listen to the part of you that wants to continue to celebrate, wants to continue to move forward, make those new traditions. Listen to all those parts because they all need an acknowledgement and attention. So listen to yourself, make a plan. Make a plan. And this is for the part of you that's carrying grief. Make a plan. Because remember, if we don't do that, the part of us that's carrying grief is going to feel, it's going to almost be panic, like, okay, what do we do now? What do we do? And so we need to make a plan, and it's a mixture of honoring those old traditions, honoring those old memories, and also creating new traditions. And you can even create a new tradition in the spirit of your loved one. It is, you can get creative about it. Also, embrace embrace the joy and the pain. Embrace the joy and the pain. One of the songs that I have kind of utilized to help me cope through my grief journey is Frankie Beverly and Mays, Joy and Pain. That is because that is truly a part of the grief journey, especially these hard days like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, their birthday, the anniversary of their death. All of these days bring up a lot of emotions. And so embracing both the joy and the pain and being present with both of them. Being present with both of them. Because it's so needed. It's so needed, especially during this time. Especially during this time. It's been pretty challenging. It's been very challenging these last few years. So much death, and it seems as if it continues to happen, and especially at the end of the year it happens. I just recently heard of the death of a coworker, a former coworker that I worked with. And we kept in contact with each other. And so and she passed and was very young. And we do have to embrace the joy and embrace the pain. So, what are we going to do? Listen to ourselves. Listen to the part of you that's carrying grief. Listen to the part of you that wants to continue to celebrate and enjoy your family. Listen to both parts and ride the wave. Ride the wave. When those waves come, breathe through the grief, be present with the grief, validate the grief, make a plan. Make a plan. Think about how you want to honor those old traditions. How do you want to honor your loved one through the holidays? Think about that. How do you want to honor them? And also think about what new traditions you want to create. I keep mentioning this, so I'm thinking maybe I might do it, which is doing some like holiday TikTok family videos just to do some engage, something that's going to bring laughter, right? We know that's going to bring laughter. And doing that in the spirit, right? In the spirit of your loved one. And of course, embracing the joy and the pain. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as holidays are fastly approaching. And so we need to check in with ourselves on how we're going to navigate the grief and the loss during the holidays. Make sure to take care of yourself. And as always, be cool, be calm, be centered. Peace.